Marcus Sedberry, Senior Associate Athletic Director, Student Athlete Success, joins us on this Tuesday. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Marcus, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Huge week with the B Association, the Hall of Fame, the induction. Andrew Mellentry, who's one of those who is going in. I've known him since he was back in the 70s, quite frankly.
Wow.
Yeah, because he went to Tyler Junior College. So did I. He went to John Tyler. And he's thrilled. He was wanting me to sit at his table, but I've got high school football that night. How much fun is this week? I know it's a lot on your plate, but how much fun to see these inductees going in here pretty soon?
This is a special weekend. We're excited about it. We have a great show planned to be able to have our 2020 Hall of Fame folks and Wall of Honor, as well as our 2021, to be able to have all of them here to celebrate their success, to be able to meet their families and maybe have their families come back for the first time in a long time. This is going to be a special weekend, and we're really looking forward to it.
Marcus, with that BYU game and how packed it was and that kind of atmosphere, what kind of ideas do you kind of glean from that when you try to build forward for how can Baylor travel as well? How can you kind of grow that kind of sentiment among your own fan base?
You know, the BYU game was great in that I think it showed our young people, our young men, and even our fans, like who we could be, who we are. I remember coming out of the tunnel and with the team and seeing the blue that were in the stands, and we were initially kind of being a little nervous, and they were loud, made their presence felt. But I loved how our fans responded. They made sure they understood that this is our house. And I think what that should show our fans is that home field matters, and that we need to come out, we need to be loud, we need to let our presence be felt. But it also is an example of how we can show up other places. I know we have very passionate fans who love Baylor, who love this team, who love what the Coach Aranda and the program that they're doing. And I think it's a great opportunity for them to be able to go and travel. We have a few games coming up here that they will have a chance to come and let their presence be felt in somebody else's backyard. So we hope that people take that challenge, and we're excited knowing that they will.
Marcus, you are in the business of helping young people. I was just curious, and I don't know if we've asked you this before, but where did that desire to help out young people and that passion to help out young people come from and lead you into the career you're in now?
So good question. I started, I think I started in the college or in the sports business. I would say even as a kid. My dad was a high school football coach and athletic director, and so I remember being in a laundry room doing laundry with my dad as young as 8 years old, and helping him. Back then they had the old reel tapes and helping him cut tapes and all that stuff. But I just know over the course of my career as a student athlete at Nebraska, there were people who poured into me, who helped me understand that me running track was great, but that's not who I was. That's just what I did. And they helped me realize that I'm much more than that, and I have much more to offer to the world. And so I think that really helped me realize the impact I might be able to have on others. I ended up having career-ending injuries, and when I thought really life was worthless and I didn't, have much to live for, went through a stage of depression and all of that, there were people there who poured into me to help me see that there's so much more to life. And that's only a short period of time. And so now I get a chance to be that person for others. I get to, hire great people who are able to serve and support our student athletes and coaches in that way to make sure that they know you got 4 or 5 years here, pour your all into your sport while you have it, because at some point, even if you go on to play in professionals, at some point it's going to end and you have a whole life ahead of you.
So
I think that's really where it comes from.
So a lot of what we've seen recently and about the depression, mental anxiety, all that stuff, of course, last year was a bizarre once in 100 years or more type thing. How much did that help you to help others because of what you've dealt with?
Sometimes when we go through things, we are so consumed with how we feel about it and the impact on us. It's hard in the moment to think about the impact you might be able to have on others in the future because of the experiences that you've gone through. And so there's times last year where, people who, I remember our track student athletes, they were at indoor nationals about to compete, and we called and asked them to come home. And so to get your senior, you're thinking you're going to compete in the national championships, and you aren't able to do that, and you don't have any other year, any years remaining, or our basketball guys who weren't able to come back. Like, to be able to have conversations with them about your sport being snatched away. I'm thankful now in hindsight for my experience, because I know what that feels like. I can tell you from experience what that feels like, not just what I read in the book or not just some story from somebody else. I was able to connect with them in a deep way. And so I think it really helped us across the board recognize that, we think of these 18 to 22-year-olds as invincible in a lot of ways. We cheer them on, we criticize them and all that. But reality is they're still young people growing up who go through tough things personally, in their family, and so forth. And it's our job to help support them through all of that.
So are you seeing maybe the people come out of the fog a little bit of 2020 and how hard that year was now? I mean, and there's probably going to be some long-lasting stresses to that, right, because of how up and down it was. But are you starting to see that people maybe come out of it now because, we've had a fairly normal season, like 95% normal?
Yeah, it's funny to watch them slowly come out of it. It's almost like, you've been cooped up for a while, and you're not sure if you can go outside, or you're not sure if you can go to the places that you used to go. And we've seen that from some of our student athletes. That their rhythm is just disconnected because of last year. And so they're slowly starting to come out. You slowly start to see them socialize a little bit more, see them come to our facility and study spaces as opposed to being cooped up and studying on their beds or in their apartments or dorms. But that's still taking an adjustment for them. And, but you can tell that they come to life when they are around other people, and when they are able to, mix between the different sports and engage in some of the resources that we have for them. And we think it's going to only help them be even better over the course of their athletic season as well as the academic year.
So I'm sitting there and I realized you were at Central Florida at one point as an assistant, or I guess assistant AD to the AD, is that right? Or assistant to the athletic director? So you can give us an idea. We know what they have done and how they have been growing, and they had a huge win against Memphis. But so what do you think, since you've been there before, and I think your wife got a degree from there, or maybe she worked there at the same time. How much does this mean to Central Florida, the incoming opportunities with the Big 12?
It's big. I mean, even then, I remember us talking about trying to build a program that eventually might be able to get to this level. And that was a pipe dream at that point. At that point, we had just gotten into Conference USA. We were trying to really establish ourselves as a dominant force in Florida. Didn't want to be the little brother anymore to Florida State, Miami. Like, all of that was a dream that Keith Dribble talked about and got coaches to believe in back then. And so I remember us building a new football facility and basketball arena on campus. And things just took off, and the enrollment was off the charts, out of this world. And I truly believe UCF is built for Big 12 ball. I think that they can compete across all sports. I think as they get more resources, they're going to compete at an even higher level. I think where Florida sports are right now, they're in great position to be able to step up from that number 4 or 5 spot to maybe to the number 3 spot there. And be able to compete with Florida State, some of the blue bloods, if you will. I think that they are primed for this type of opportunity. And the way they do it will be on being cutting edge, not being the traditional way of doing things, but more risky with how they go about, branding themselves and all of that. And I think there's a generation of young people who like that, who want to go and make their own mark, not just be a part of tradition at Florida State, and those places. And so I think that they're going to come in the league. I think they're going to be somebody that we all have to respect and show up against across all sports. Well,
Marcus, speaking from as an alum of one of those schools in Tallahassee, could you make some of them maybe go back to Tallahassee? we miss them.
I've heard that from some of my other Tallahassee friends.
Marcus, the Baylor fan base has been through a lot, and they've seen a drought after the Grant Taft years. And then, of course, they saw the surge. And then, of course, everything kind of went to hell in 2015-16. And then, they've gotten up off the mat and supported this the program. Do you still sense, though, there's more that this fan base can understand about what it should be like to be a football fan inside the stadium and the kind of noise and energy it should bring? And I'm talking week in and week out, and maybe understand moments during the game.
Yeah, one thing that's been really impressive to me has been the love that Baylor fans have for Baylor. I mean, it's deep. It's really deep. When you talk about, especially when you start to talk about some of the other schools in the state and how people love those institutions, I don't think that Baylor fans and the Baylor family take a backseat to any of them. I think the degree is well respected. I think their passion for the university, all of that is really, really real. And what I hope, I think what we all hope, is that we continue to put on our football field, on our basketball court, any field of competition that we're in, put something out there that the Baylor family is really proud of, and that they can rally behind it, and that they want to come fill the stands every week, that they want to not only just brag about it Monday through Friday, but will want to be there on Saturday to be a part of it. So that maybe they're bringing out their family and they're teaching their young, their son or their daughter what it means to be a Baylor Bear, what it means to be in a packed football stadium, in a packed arena, and to cheer loud for a national contending program. Like, we want that to be the norm, and we want generation upon generation of the Baylor family to feel that, to know that, and take great pride in that. And I think part of that's on us to continue to do that. And the other part of it is for our fan base to embrace that, to know that to be a big time, you got to be big time. And be big time means showing up day in, day out, week in, week out, to make sure that we have a home court, home field advantage, and that our young people know that we have a whole family behind them cheering them on.
Can you try to, and one more question, we appreciate you, again, Marcus Sedbury, Baylor Athletics. Can you try to describe what it has been like since late July when the Texas and Oklahoma story popped with the SEC, and how much has been discussed and what the Big 12 has been able to do to not only stop the bleeding or hemorrhaging, but also get back on their feet and look forward? What's that been like inside some of your executive meetings?
The truth is there are times, if I'm just honest with you, there's times where there's a lot of uncertainty. You're not sure. You see and hear reports, and, I'm thankful for Mac because he was at the forefront of leading the Big 12 through the process. So we knew a little bit about what he was up to and how he was trying to help lead the Big 12 and what the commissioner and other leaders were doing across the conference. But you still never really know. You can have the best laid plans, but sometimes things don't go the way that you want them to. So you're still trying to figure out how it's all going to shake out. I think one thing that we had great resolve in and comfort in was that we felt like Baylor was going to be okay no matter what. It might look different, it might feel a little different, but no matter how this shakes out, we truly believe we are in a great position across all sports. The academic profile of our institution, all of those things, we're in a good position to come out of this in a good space regardless. And then as you start to see some of it materialize, some people, you heard people kind of questioning it, but you start thinking about those four teams that we're bringing in. We're really strong. And I get that, that there may be some affinity to some of the teams because of the Texas ties and Big 12 and Southwest Conference, all those things. I get all of that. But to really look at the numbers and understand who these programs are, yes, it's not a Texas in the sense of kind of some of the history that are there. But you look at football right now, Cincinnati looks really good. BYU is a great program. UCF, I would argue, without their quarterback going down, they'd still be a highly ranked team. I think Houston, same thing. They have the potential to do some really great things. I think across the board, we saw, as Max started to lay it out for us, we saw the bigger picture. And when you see the big picture, we feel like the Big 12 is in a great place. And then for Baylor fans and the Baylor family, I think we are primed in a great position to really step up and lead top to bottom.
Marcus, thank you, man. Always great to see you. He's at the Dave Aranda weekly pressers as well. You see him everywhere, and he's got that huge B Association event coming up, in fact, this weekend as well. That's Marcus Sedbury with us from Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio. And I just saw that looking through his bio, and UCF, Florida, Central Florida, Senior Associate AD Student Athlete Success.
Yeah, I hope it's a good crowd this weekend. There's still some tickets remaining, which is disappointing. I know that the typical characters, Colt Barber being one of them, has tried to rally the troops. I don't know what more you could want. It's going to be beautiful weather. It's the only negative is the 11 a.m. kickoff, and I get that to some extent. I don't, however, get any complaints about a kickoff time when you're 6-1 and you're welcoming in Texas. I don't. I don't care if they're kicking off at 8 a.m. If we have to be here for a 6 a.m. pregame show, guess what? I'm going to be here, and I'm going to make sure I'm at that game, and I'm working. So I kind of have to, but as a fan, if Texas was rolling in for one of the probably final 2 times they'll play in Waco for the next 20 years most likely, and this was a situation where my team was 6-1 and firmly in the top 25 and maybe, flirting with the top 15, top 10 after this weekend if you win, that's enough for me. And I hope it's a good crowd, and I hope that, and by saying that, I don't mean like the BYU crowd where it was like 50-50 practically. At least that's the way it felt. I mean more along the lines of 60-40 at worst, but
and they will do it. Look, the Longhorn fans will buy up those tickets.
They will, but
so they're not as probably enforced as they would have been had they not lost last year.
But they understand when they're at that fragile point of a season, and all of a sudden you'll have 8,000 to 10,000 maybe pop up on game day. They travel. They're everywhere. They're huge in Waco, as A&M fans are as well. Thanks to Marcus Sedbury. And, yeah, I mean, I've beaten that drum so much about crowd and noise and all that. I wish sometimes that Baylor fans, if they do show up with a pretty good crowd, one of the things I'd love to see you do, if you have a chance, is enjoy the end of the game. But it seems like everyone just filters out, and I get that as well. All right, coming up next, Craig Smoak, Off the Radar.